So hi everybody, today I will be talking about CLI for Microsoft 365. What else? And this is the second demo out of 5 demo series we plan to deliver that will give you only a glance about how you can use CLI and what CLI is, because there are so many features we cannot show all of them in detail. So if there's anything you will see that you are particularly interested in, please do let me know in the chat and I will do a deep dive demo only about that. Last time we did an intro about what CLI is and how to get started, and today we will be doing tips and tricks, yeah, if the slide will move. Oh, and come on. And these are some game changer features if this presentation will start working. Sorry, once more, let's try. Oh, come on. Okay, it moved. Okay, I hope it will start responding now. So tips and tricks, so the game changer features that CLI has and could be unique to CLI and not to other CLIs that you maybe might using. So it's good to know them. And before we start, come on. This. Sorry for that. I think a bit of, okay. This will work, so let's go. So before we start, okay, hi everybody. I hope it will be moving smoothly from now on. I'm Adam. I'm a simple standard dev. I'm an MVP. I'm a maintainer of a couple of products, PNP products you may use. Part of PNP core team, doesn't matter. Okay, please do reach me out if you need any kind of help. And today with me, Arjun.
Hello everyone. I'm Arjun Menon. I am based out of Bangalore, India. I am a Microsoft MVP. I am also a co-maintainer for CLI for Microsoft 365 as well. Adam, can you switch the slide, please, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Yes. I am also a proud alumni of Hugo and David's Sharing is Caring session. So if you guys have not attended that is one of the sessions which you can attend so that you can present like how we are doing it. It will make it so easy. Over to you. Back to you, Adam.
Okay, cool. And let's speed up. So a bit of a use case. So let's say we have our developer named Chuck. He's like chilling all the time, the developing something, maybe related to SPFX, whatever. And all of a sudden he gets this do it message on Teams to create some Excel report based on some items from SharePoint list. And best to do it today. So how many times you received this message? I at least a couple of times in my life. And Chuck is smart. At least that's what Copilot told him. So he will be using CLI for Microsoft 365 to accomplish his task, to create a script so he can reuse it or adapt it to a different use case in the future. And before he starts, he wants to check how he can customize CLI to make it trimmed and ready for his scenario. And as you can see, CLI has a lot of settings to set up. So some are strictly related to how the CLI will react when you are logging, or how CLI will respond to your commands. So what will be the default output mode, or what would the help mode? So if you will see the full doc command help, or just a trimmed version of only the options when you will ask for the help, or the command will fail, or will you see the spinner, or if it will prompt for the questions, and many more. And you can set them all up by using the CLI config set list get reset command. And it's a lot and could be a bit overwhelming also for Chuck. And CLI has an answer for that. So we have an M365 setup command that will ask you 2 questions. Are you planning to use CLI interactively or in script? Or are you a beginner or pro? And based on your answers, we will set the settings for the CLI perfect for your scenario. And what's really, and I won't be demoing it today because I demoed in the last session, but what's really awesome that you don't always need to answer those questions. You can run the M365 setup. There's a scripting parameter, and it will set up the settings already trimmed or fit for the scenario based for script. So this could be a command that is at the top of every command, and this is what will Chuck use to be sure that when the script is executed, it's prepared to be run in like a scripting mode, so won't be presenting a loader or additional help that is not needed for the script or for the logging or whatever. Okay, so really awesome. And the next thing, what Chuck actually needs, so he doesn't need to retrieve all the data from the list, just some trimmed data. And not every command uses an API underneath that supports filtering, but we have a query option that allows you to add filtering and ordering for any kind of command CLI has. And it supports JSON path. So this is a query language for JSON, because under the hood, we are working on objects, so on JSON objects, and then you can pass your custom filtering or sorting to trim the values from any command, any response, to only have the one you actually want. So this is really awesome, and this is something Chuck will for sure use. Okay, the next thing, so CLI supports different output modes. So we have like the JSON output mode, which is perfectly to use in a script when you're passing one response from one command to another. We have the text and the markdown output modes, which are perfect for readability in console or in a file, so really readable for a user. And we have the CSV output mode, which is really awesome for an Excel report, right? And there are additional options that you can set using the CLI config commands. For example, if you want the headers to be present as part of this CSV report, so the response, so part of your report as well, or what will be the symbol that will escape the column. So really awesome, and this is something that Chuck will for sure use, because then his whole script will be just a single command line with a query and with a CSV output to a file, and done. Really cool. And another feature we want to present to you today, which is a huge game changer in CLI, and Chuck will be using it as well, is the context. And it's not only site context, because CLI is not only about managing SharePoint sites. It's about managing your Microsoft 365 tenants. So the context could be anything, anytime, anywhere. And we have commands like init remove that supports it. And basically what the context is a file that's named m365rc.json, to which you can put any kind of option. And then when you execute and you're executing a command which is run in the same place where where this context file is present, CLI will know that it can use the options from this file, and therefore you don't need to pass them to every command, like the web URL, which is almost present in any SPO command. And really cool. Let's see a use case. So let's say I am in my Visual Studio Code, and this is my script, 3 commands, cool. And as you can see, I am passing the web URL and the list title in a couple of commands. The same thing. So I could extract it to a variable at the top of my script and then change only this variable. But what I can also do is just use the CLI context, and I don't have to do it manually. I can execute a command in the terminal, m365 context init, which will create this file for me, and then I can do run additional commands to put those options I am using in my scripts in this context file, so I am sure this context file is done properly. And then what I can do is I can remove those options from my script. And when I will run the script in the same location as my context, CLI will know, okay, now I can use those options from this file. Awesome. And that's why the script is neat and clean and doesn't have the additional fields that could distract you. And what's really good as a use case here, that you can have different context file based for different environments. For example, for a dev environment, prod environment, whatever, and then just rename them before running a script, so the CLI will run in the proper context of your environment. Really awesome use case, right? And Chuck will be using it for sure. And now I'll pass my voice to Arjun to show you more cool features about what can be used with CLI for Microsoft 365. Okay, Arjun, stage is yours.
Is my screen visible, Adam?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Awesome. Now we've heard about Check. How good is he? What are the things which he does in these day-to-day activities? Now the problem with Chuck is he's too ambitious. He wants to bring the interactive generative AI experience into the terminal which he is going to run the commands. Well, CLI is there for his rescue. So what Chuck will do is that there's something called the Chili, which we call as our AI assistant, which is embedded or which is infused along with the CLI toolchain. So what Chuck can do is that he will invoke this AI assistant, ask whatever questions which he has, and it doesn't just stop there. He can even continue the conversation, ask the questions on top of that as well. Let me quickly show a quick demo and show you how it typically behaves. Now, I hope you can see my terminal. What Chuck does is that he will just ask m365 question mark, and I'll just ask, please give me the command to create SharePoint list. Well, I've added please, so I'm sure I'll get a response. So what is happening under the covers is that we under the CLI, we are using something called Mendable AI, a service which has been provided by Mendable, and they were kind enough to use their services where we have infused the documentations of the CLI to their system so that we can use the generative AI to the terminal itself. So the advantage is that you'll be able to get the conversational experience within the terminal itself. Now, what you see is that you get the response in a pretty neat way with all the details. What are the commands which is going to get it? Say, for example, it has given the commands that, okay, SPO list add is something which I have to use it. Now, the problem with Chuck is that he's too ambitious. His ambition does not stop there. He wants to know more. Now, how about with version limit? Let's see. So this is the power which it brings to the terminal interface so that you can have a conversational kind of interface within the terminal itself so that you'll be able to get the details about the command. You don't need to go to the docs. But again, if you prefer to go to the docs, you can always go there. But if you prefer to have it from the terminal interface itself, you can get the details here. Now, you get the details that, OK, when you ask this question, you have to add one more parameter called major version limit. So this is just an example which I showed here. The power which it brings into the terminal is much more than that. And the Chuck is super happy that he'll be able to use these in the terminal itself. All right. Now, quickly shift the content. All right. Now Chuck is happy. Now he's going to remember chili. Now, Adam, in his initial discussion, briefly talked about something called multiple identities. Well, we consultants are really famous for handling the gazillions of tenants which we manage, right? So the problem with the classical approach is that if you want to log into the multiple tenants, the login to the previous tenant gets lost. Now, that is a real pain. So how about if you are able to bring all these connections into the terminal interface, and all the user needs to do is that invoke the command for switching the connection, so that within the script, if you have a complicated script which handles with multiple tenants or with multiple users, or even if you have a simple script where you quickly want to search to switch the tenants to run it against the multiple tenant itself, this is the way to do that. Well, we've got something called connection list, remove, set, and use. I mean, it's a typical CRUD operations which we will have it. It will list the list of connections which is already there. You'll be able to remove it. And the core idea is that you'll be able to use the command called M365 connection use so that you'll be able to use the connection for invoking the command against this one. Let me quickly show it in action here. Connection list. Now you see that there are already 3 connections available over here. Now you can also notice that it is being from a different tenant. This is from a-um.me, and this is from another tenant. And this is another connections which I'm using the app only permissions. So you can even log into using the device code, the conventional device code, using the app only login, or any kind of logins which you prefer to. And all this connection gets persisted in this interface. So what I'm going to do is that let me quickly log in to this one using a connection name called Mike. Right. Do this. I'll just quickly click this. And the login gets invoked under the covers. And when we speak, the login is getting executed under the covers, and I'm getting logged in to the tenant. All right. Let's hope it works. Yes, it does. Let me just go back here. I should get the response at any point. Well, I'm not. Yes, I got. Let's quickly get the list. Now let's run a very complicated command which we have. Getting the list of SharePoints in the my tenant, right? Super complicated, isn't it? Now what happens is the Chuck identifies something. The user which he has logged in does not have the permission. So what Chuck quickly does is that quickly switch the connection to another user. Site list. Bingo, you got the result. Now imagine Chuck wants to log into another tenant. Connection use AUM 365. I'm running the same command. Site list. Now you can notice that this is from AUM 365. And this is from AUM Online. Now, this is the power which it brings to the table. Now, what I showed is a very, very simple or very, very trivial case. But imagine a script where you want to do a complicated operations within the tenant, across the tenant, or with multiple users. The power it brings into the table is super, super awesome. All right. Let me quickly switch the slides here. Now, what you can see is that it gives the multiple identities. You'll be able to use the various commands for switching the context, and it will even give the details about what is the type of authentications which the user has used in. So there will be scenarios where you want to use it with the user, or there will be scenarios where you want to check the tenant with an Azure AD app. So this is the way how you can quickly switch against this. All right. Now, the problem is when Chuck starts using the CLI from Microsoft 365, the manager is not going to sit idle. He's going to bring lot of complicated tasks which has to be completed by the Chuck. Now, one of the use case which manager brought into Chuck is that to get the list of flows which is there in the tenant, or Power Automate which is there in the tenant. Now, what happens typically? What users or what consultants will do is that they'll start the script from the scratch. Well, with PNP samples, you don't necessarily need to do that. Most of the commonly used samples, it would already be available within the repository. We've already given the details in the URL of the details over here. You can quickly head on to that, where you'll be able to see very, very amazing samples over there. All you need to do is that go through the samples, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Well, Chuck is a person who loves VS Code to its core. Now, what another beautiful feature which we bring is that there's something called an extension for CLI for Microsoft 365. Now, the advantage of this extension is that you'll be able to see all the commands within the interface of the Visual Studio Code. You can do the search, and you'll be able to see the details in the grouped way as well as in the listed way. So you don't need to go to the browser. If you're a lazy person like Chuck, this is a handy thing for you. And if you want to know more information or want to see the browser experience, you can always click over here, which will take you directly to the browser itself. Now, another cool feature which it brings here is that you will be able to search the samples right from here. So what I'm going to do is that Chuck wants to create an inventory of the flow. Well, Pete has already created that sample. Now, the sample is available in both of these languages, both in the PowerShell as well as in the Bash. Chuck is a Bash user, so he clicks on the Bash, and it gets directly opened up in a new window. Now, 85% of the task is already completed. All Chuck may need to do is that tweak it a bit if he wants to show it more interactive. Now, this is how you will be able to get the samples directly used. You don't need to create it from the scratch. You can go to the sample gallery. Almost all the samples would already be available over here. Now, this is an extension which has been created by our own Adam, who just started the presentation. It is out of this sheer love for the CLI. He has created this. Kudos to him. Well, now that concludes the session which we are having, and we are just not stopping here. We've got a 5 series session which we are going to tell you various use cases, various tips and tricks, how you can easily manage it, the tenants and all. Do watch out for that. Along with that, we also have a Discord server. Please do join us, and we also have a every Monday Connect which happens. Do join us and ask any kind of questions, be it with the CLI or be it with the live, where we are more happy to answer about that. This is the URL which you can refer to. With that, over to you, Hugo.